Hey guys, welcome to Safi Mixed. In this video, I will let you know how to plot multiple 3D surface plots on a single frame in Veusz. I have already uploaded two videos on how to export 3D data and how to create 3D data scene like you see over here. If you don't know about that, I will add links to those videos to the description of this video. You may see those videos for further details. Here, I have already created a 3D scene and now I want to export data, and that I can do by coming to data tab and then clicking on the import tab. And here I browse my data from this point, and my data I have set in this folder and I export the data in tab 1. So I double click this. Now, one thing I must tell you, since I'll be uploading two sets of data, therefore in this region prefix, the file name must be activated so that the views doesn't replace the previous data by importing a new set of data. So with that said, I just click the import button and the data is imported over here. Now I close this window and I come back to data tab and click on create 2D data. And in create 2D data, I first give name to my 2D data that will be created, and that's I call 2D data 1. And then in the X expression or range, I enter column 1. In the Y data, I enter column 2. And in Z expression, I enter column 3 of table 1. So you see, okay, now I click on the create tab to create 2D data and I close this window. Since the 2D data one is now created, then I come here to the graph and I name axis first. I give it x-axis, then I click this and I give this y-axis. And keep in mind, I'm not changing the minimum and maximum of the x and y data because I leave them on auto. The views will automatically pick the values of the x and y axis. And for z, I change this a little bit by writing f as a function of x and y. And I know my data, the minimum value of my data is 0 and the maximum value of my data is 10. There's I know from the data sheet. So I enter these values and then I click enter. In general, we use plots the z-axis along this direction, so you would need to rotate this by setting this to minus 96, the x rotation to minus 6. In that case, then the z-axis will be along vertical. So I come over here and now I add a 3D widget surface, 3D surface widget. It is added, and in this area, the data set, I click on this and I add the 2D data set 1, which I have created from my data. That is this one. This is 2D data set 1. So if I select this data, the plot is plotted. Okay, now I come to formatting window and I want to give a color from color maps, and I set this to spectrum 2. And you see, I even though I select the spectrum 2, but the color of the surface of the plot is not changed. That's because I haven't added the data set 1 in the color map. And if I add this, so now I have the map, and I want to invert this color by clicking on this slide. Okay, this is now my data. And now I want to add another surface plot to this frame. That I can do by first adding, by first clicking on the scene option here and then adding another graph. And if I click the positive sign, again I have x, y, and z axes. Since these axes are already labeled, therefore I don't give any label to them. And now I want to import the data for the second surface plot. I come back over here, I browse the data and go to the folder where I have saved my data, and it is saved with name tab2cv. So I double click this, and then I keep this file name intact, and I import the data. You see now table 2 data, which consists of 3 columns, is now imported. And again, I repeat the same procedure to create a 2D data. So I close this window and I come to data tab and then create 2D data, and I give the name 2D data 2. And then I come down to X expression or range, and I feed tab 2 CSV column 1. That is, I'm feeding now this value. And similarly in the X range, I add data from tab 2, and in the Z expression, I add data from tab 2 as column 3, and I create the data. So you see the 2D data 2 is now created. I close this window, and I come here on highlighting the graph 3D2, and I add the 3D surface widget to the list. It is now added, and while this highlighted, I add the data to this. Since now you see here the 2D data 2 is enlisted, and I select this, and no sooner did I select it, the data for the second plot is um, the plot for the second data is plotted. And I know, okay, now here in the color, I can either add data 2 or data 1. I can add any one of them. But since I have already selected the colors for 2D data 1, and I want to give the same colors to the second plot, so I select this now. And then I come here to add spectrum 2. I take this and I come to the maps spectrum 2. I select this, and then I click on the invert map to invert the map. But now I know that my data in this case is the minimum value of my data is -10, and the maximum value of this data is 0. So either I have to change the values over here, or I come to the first plot and I change the minimum over here to -10. And if I do that, this whole scale will be rescaled from -10 to +10. If I click enter, see it is maximum. And then I come over here to add maximum 10. You see now, the this plot is from -10 to 0, and the upper one is from 0 to 10. So I have scaled the vertical scale from -10 to 10. And I have plotted these two surface figure on the same frame. You can make some other changes if you come over here and go down and you click on this tab and change the color to blue. So the mesh on the plot is now uh, blue in color, and the same I do with the second one. I want to change this to blue as well. So you have this You can further play with this figure by changing the scales along x, y, and z axes. However, I have done this in my previous videos, therefore I would again refer you to those videos if you are interested, whose link, as I said, would I add to the description of this video. Thanks for watching.